Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans can be this year's Patriots and completely turn their franchise around with these 5 moves, and the last move is the single most important move if the Titans want to turn their franchise around for good. This is the ideal offseason for the Tennessee Titans because Titans fans, I know it's been rough. The organization has been dysfunctional. You should have fired Brian Callahan after year 1, and you probably shouldn't have ever fired Mike Vrabel in the first place. But I truly believe that y'all can turn it around in a similar fashion to what the Patriots had last year. Super Bowl's a little bit too ambitious, probably a little bit unrealistic given the state of your own division, how good all those teams look. And after last year's 3-14 finish, the Titans were going to need a great offseason anyway. But just like the 2024 Patriots, who struggled mightily, one thing is clear. They have a quarterback who's talented enough to be the face of their franchise. Cam Ward showed in a terrible situation that he can still make plays in some of the best throws in football. Obviously, the full season stats last year looked bad, but that's why we're not box score merchants. Watch the freaking games. He made some unreal throws. And understand the context, too. The Titans couldn't run the ball. Maybe not horrible, but bad offensive line. Plus, he had no legitimate receiving threats and awful coaching with Brian Callahan and Mike McCoy. That last sentence leads me to my first move to turn the Tennessee Titans around in 2026, and it's 2 moves that already happened. They're going to hire Robert Saleh and offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, and even if there were 0 changes in this roster for next year, this team would be better because the coaching will be 10 times better than it was last year. Saleh will be calling the plays on defense, and he consistently does more with less as a play caller on the defensive side of the ball than anyone in the entire NFL. Ask the Niners' hospital defense last year. I know for a fact the Titans defense has just improved. And going from Brian Callahan's mind in play calling to Brian Daboll's is absolutely night and day. The Titans offense just improved immensely as well. This is the same blueprint Vrabel and McDaniel's playbook the New England Patriots use. A defense first head coach who's been a head coach before with an offensive coordinator that's also been a head coach before. And the Titans supplemented that with hiring Gus Bradley as their defensive coordinator, who's another former head coach. So tons of knowledge, tons of experience, and stability among their staff now. I think Titans fans have to be ecstatic with that, and that is a recipe for a team turnaround right there. Plus, you get Saleh and Daboll not as head coaches for New York franchises, so they'll have less media, less eyes, less pressure, and less scrutiny to deal with. I think they coach much better and much more free without all that extra BS. Speaking of some extra BS, it's time to make some cuts to this roster to increase the cap space. My second move that will turn the Titans around in 2026, we're going to cut Calvin Ridley, we're going to cut Tony Pollard, we're going to cut L'Jarius Sneed, and we're going to cut Lloyd Cushenberry. Now, these are some big names for the Titans. However, I think this is all for a purpose. Ridley feels self-explanatory to me. Him and Ward didn't gel last year. Plus, he's 31 years old now and coming off a season-ending broken leg last year. I know this wide receiver core is already weak, and Daboll worked with Ridley when Daboll was OC at Alabama, but that was damn near a decade ago at this point. They were both in college, and Ridley simply is not close to being a wide receiver 1 at this point in his career. I feel like it's just better to move on for both sides. Now, Tony Pollard's certainly not a bad running back. 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He's a big play threat, solid pass catcher, so you could be able to trade him for a late round pick, but he's going to be 29 years old, getting up there in RB years. Plus, running backs are replaceable. You could get one in the draft and one in free agency. Plus, Tajay Spears has shown flashes. I've liked what I've seen from him. He just needs to stay healthy. L'Jarius Sneed, though, has been an absolute disaster since the Titans traded for him. He was graded 102nd of 112 corners per PFF last year, so basically a bottom 10 corner in football. Plus, he's missed 12 games in 2 seasons, 22 games due to injury. This is an absolute no-brainer to move on. And even though they signed Cushenberry last offseason, he was terrible last year, especially as a run blocker, and that's a position that you can upgrade through free agency. You save $13.7 million with Ridley, $12 million with Sneed, $7 million with Pollard, and $3.5 million with Cushenberry. That's $36.2 more million on top of the $99 million you already have to spend, which is the most in football. That's just like the Patriots had last season. Now, with $135 million to spend, let's start filling the holes on this team. And I said we could address center in free agency, so let's address center. God damn it. The third move to turn around the Tennessee Titans, we're going to sign center Tyler Linderbaum to a 5-year, $100 million deal. We're replacing one of the worst centers in football with one of the best. Linderbaum, who according to PFF has been a top 6 center in each of his first 4 seasons, excels in the run game. He ranked 4th in run block grade per PFF last year. And this year he was also 4th in pass block win rate among interior offensive linemen. He is the best offensive lineman on the market. So let's go get him. Maybe $20 million a year is an overpay, but you got plenty of money to spend. So we are spending it. You bring in Linderbaum. You have Peter Skoronski at left guard, who was really good last year. And I'm also also bringing back Kevin Zeitler at right guard if I'm the Tennessee Titans as well on a 1-year deal. I get that he's old, but he's still playing at a high level. And then J.C. Latham at right tackle, who still wasn't great last year, but showed some improvement and still has plenty of ability. The biggest concern with this offensive line now is at left tackle with Dan Moore. When they signed him last offseason, most of us knew that was a bad contract as soon as they signed him, and it hasn't worked out so far, but maybe they could address that with their top pick as well. Although even if they ride with Moore at left tackle, the offensive line will be much better with Linderbaum and bringing back Kevin Zeitler. Then the continued development of Skoronski and Latham, backed by an improved scheme by Dable as offensive coordinator. I believe that unit will be solid in 2026 either way, and we saw how important an improved offensive line was to the Patriots in their transformation last season. But the defense still needs to improve its personnel, and I am going to do that. The fourth move I'm making to turn the Titans around in 2026, I'm signing Odafe Owe and Jalen Watson in free agency. I know it is 2 moves, but I also really don't care because they have the money. Still roughly $100 million left after signing the offensive lineman, so let's get 2 pieces to help this defense. First with Owe, he fits Salah's scheme perfectly that puts trust in its front, the wide 9 on the edges to focus on speed rush, which Owe is known for. Plus, Salah likes to mix coverages on the back end, trying to get after the passer with a 4-man rush. Owe can do that. 10 sacks in 2024 with the Ravens, then 7.5 with the Chargers after the trade last year, and was also 10th among edge rushers in pass rush win rate last year. Plus, he'll be cheaper and maybe more productive than Trey Hendrickson, which shit, if you want to sign them both, you probably can. That's how much money you have, but I personally like Owe better. He's younger, he's cheaper, and more upside at this point in his career. I believe 3 years for about $60 million gets it done for Odafe Owe. With Watson, he's got that championship experience coming from Kansas City, and where he can cover well, he's a tall, long, physical corner. He really excels in the run game and blitzing as well. He's got the versatility and the toughness that Salah's scheme values as well. I'd say something around 3 years, 39 to 45 million will work for Jalen Watson. They'll need more help than this at both corner and edge, but like I said, there's still money to burn now, and after the 4 signings I just said, they'll conservatively still have about 70 million to spend wherever they like, plus the draft. The Titans are in a good spot right now. And before I give the final move that will turn the Tennessee Titans around in 2026, if you could do me a big favor and subscribe to the channel, that would be outstanding. I would appreciate it. We just reached over 1,000 subscribers, so thank you guys for that. That's amazing. And we have content like this coming all off season, getting you guys ready for free agency and the NFL draft. So if that sounds good to you, click the subscribe button and you are officially the GOAT. Now, my final and most important move that turns the Tennessee Titans around in 2026, we are going to the NFL draft. And what we're doing is we're going to trade back from 4th overall and draft Makai Lemon, the USC wide receiver. Now, reports say they're almost assured to draft David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech, at 4th overall. I would not hate that. They need edge rush to complement Jeffrey Simmons and the big man Sweat on the interior. So that's not a bad pick in my opinion. However, when you draft a quarterback in the top 5 overall, like they did with Cam Ward in 2025, you do not pick edge in the top 5 of the next draft. You do something that's going to help out your young quarterback, whether that's a weapon or whether that's a lineman. If they want to sit there at 4 and draft whoever the best available lineman is, whether that's Francis Malinois, the tackle out of Miami, Ward's former teammate at the U, to protect his blind side, I would like that. You could go with Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame, because you think he's the best player in the draft. He can be valuable as a rusher, and he's a weapon as a receiver out of the backfield as well. I like that too. But to me, the best player available, the best weapon available, the best wide receiver available, and here's a hot take, the best player in the draft, period. Yes, I said best player in the draft is Makai Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC. Let me ask y'all a question. Who was the best wide receiver in the NFL last year? It was JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? That's Makai Lemon. He is the next Jackson Smith and Jigba. His size is the only real negative. He's listed at 5'11", 195. But guess what? The wide receiver we just decided was the best in football last year was JSN, 6 foot, 197 pounds. He's not a huge dude either. This man, Makai Lemon, is an absolute artist of a route runner, can create separation, high football IQ. His hands are elite. And for a wide receiver that's 5'11", you'd be surprised how many jump balls, contested catches, and times he just flat out moss somebody at USC. You give a weapon like that to a quarterback like Cam Ward and an offensive coordinator like Brian Daboll, a quarterback wide receiver duo that can grow together. I think that is the best case scenario for the Tennessee Titans. Plus, I'd be cool just staying at 4 to get him because I think he's the best player in the draft. But you could also potentially trade down to that 7 to 10 range where I think he probably ends up going, gain some additional assets, and then continue to load up on offensive line, add a defensive back, another edge player, and add a running back as well. My favorite mock draft that I did, I traded back from 4th overall to 8th overall with the Saints. The Saints gave me their 8th overall pick, the 2nd this year, which is 42nd overall, and a 3rd in 2027, and I drafted Makai Lemon 8th overall. Then I got Mason Thomas, the speed rusher out of Oklahoma with the 35th pick. I grabbed corner Colton Hood, a talented corner who I think fits the Saleh scheme really well out of Tennessee with the 42nd pick that we acquired from the Saints. And then with the 66th pick, I grabbed Jadarian Price, the running back out of Notre Dame. I basically just finished it by spamming offensive line and then taking a high upside swing on Harold Perkins. So you combine these moves in the draft with our free agency deals, with the tremendous upgrades in coaching and Cam Ward's natural year two progression. Watch out for the Tennessee Titans. I know the division's solid, but they can make some noise in that AFC South and, just like the Patriots, potentially turn it around and be a playoff team next season. But what do y'all think? Comment down below what you would change about this plan. And do you think the Titans can turn it around in 2026? For Between the Uprights, my name is Matt, and that's going to be it for me. Peace.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.